Hello everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am bringing you guys my end of December wrap up. So I'm going to be talking about the books that I read from around the 15th of December to the 31st. Also, since this is my last wrap up of 2019, I thought I would give you guys just some general stats for my year of reading. So I read 61,000 pages across 168 books. And the shortest book I read was 65 pages, and that was Cast Long Shadows by Cassandra Clare. That was a novella that's part of the Ghosts of the Shadow Market bind up. And the longest book that I read was 984 pages, and that was Kingdom of Ash, which is the last book in the Throne of Glass series. My average rating was right at 4.0, and the most popular book I read was Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, and the least popular book I read was Willful Depravity by Ingrid Hahn, which is actually a book that I talked about in my underrated books that I love video. Again, I will link that up in the cards above. Let's just go ahead and get into it. The first book that I want to discuss is Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix by J.K. Rowling. I will link my reading vlog for this up above in the cards. But essentially I'm giving this one 5 stars. I've given pretty much every book in this series 5 stars. It's definitely slower paced than some of the other installments. However, there are some plot lines that I really love in this book, specifically, you know, the formation of Dumbledore's army, and of course how deliciously evil Professor Umbridge is. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to reading Half-Blood Prince this month. The next book that I read is Joy to the Duke by Darcy Burke. This was an arc that I got off of NetGalley, and this is essentially a Christmas novella that is a historical romance. So this novella is based on the Christmas Carol story, and we have Calder, who is a duke who is very cold-hearted now after having been in love with this woman named Felicity, and she just left him 10 years ago and he has no idea why. So he's a very bitter man. And then we have Felicity, who has now come back to their town to take care of her mother, and she is recently widowed. And there's a bit of miscommunication here because she thinks that he is the one that didn't want her, and he thinks that she just left him. So they're both feeling very bitter towards each other, but now that they are in the same town again and she's recently widowed, they have a second chance at love. And I did really enjoy this. I'm giving this one 3.5 stars overall. And while this novella didn't blow me away, I did really enjoy the element of the Christmas Carol retelling because it is my personal favorite story around Christmas time, and I do really enjoy Darcy Burke's writing, so I'm definitely looking forward to requesting more of her works off of NetGalley in the future. The next book that I read is another historical romance novella, and that is Guarding the Countess by Jess Michaels. This was another arc that I got off of NetGalley, and this is essentially an MMF romance. So this story basically focuses on Naomi, and she is a woman whose 2 past husbands have both died under mysterious circumstances, and so she goes to these 2 detectives named Marcus and Everett, and a relationship develops between the 3 of them. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I did enjoy it. This is a very short, just smutty novella, and I really enjoyed the 3 individual characters, but I also just loved seeing the relationship between the 3 of them develop, and it really ended up being something really beautiful in the end. I mean, I definitely would recommend this if you're looking for something this niche, you know, a historical romance that is an MMF romance as well. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, it didn't blow me away. But yeah, it was just a fun time. And the next book I want to discuss is Hunting Prince Dracula by Kerri Maniscalco. I talked about reading this book quite a bit in my Christmas reading vlog, so I will link that up in the cards above as well. And this is book 2 in the Stalking Jack the Ripper series, and I enjoyed this one so much more than the first book. The first book I gave 3.5 stars, I believe, and this one I'm giving 4.5 stars. Basically, this is centering on Audrey Rose and Thomas Cresswell, and they go to Romania to attend this really prestigious forensic school, which is actually housed in the castle that Vlad the Impaler lived in, and there starts to be dead bodies turning up that are completely drained of their blood, and so it looks like a vampire may be the culprit. I really liked the entire atmosphere of this story. story, you know, being in Romania and it's snowing, and this takes place in December as well and around Christmas time, so it was actually the perfect time of year to read this one. And I thought the mystery was just so much better as well than the first installment. Like, I personally couldn't guess who the murderer was, and so when that was revealed, I was genuinely surprised. I just continue to fall more and more in love with Audrey Rose and Thomas and their relationship. It's just one of the most healthy relationships that I've ever read about in a YA series. I'm definitely looking forward to reading Escaping from Houdini, which is the third installment in this series, this month. Right, and now I have 4 5-star reads to talk about. I think that's the most 5-star reads that I've had in a wrap-up. I think, I could be wrong about that, but the first one is Before the Devil Breaks You by Libba Bray. This is the 3rd book in the Diviners series, and this book was absolutely insane. Like, I would say the entire second half really picked up, and the ending was just nuts and left me so heartbroken and just wig snatched, like just shook. What I love most about this installment is that we finally have all of our main characters coming together and fighting for the greater good and fighting the King of Crows. It was just so great to read about. I continue to be in awe of Libba Bray's writing style and her characters and the plot. Everything is just so amazing, and I love how everything connects from the first book to this one. And oh man, I'm just so excited to read King of Crows when it comes out in February. The next 5-star read that I want to talk about is Verity by Colleen Hoover. This is actually a book that I got from my local library because I've kind of decided that I don't want to buy thrillers for myself because I don't usually reread them after I know what the plot twist is. But this is actually my very first Colleen Hoover book, and maybe that was a mistake because I know that this book is just so different from everything else that she writes. She usually writes very emotional, very angsty romances, and this was an insane mystery thriller with a romance aspect to it for sure, but definitely mostly a thriller, and oh man, was this one insane. So in this story we are following Lowen. She is a kind of mediocre author. Like, not many people read or buy her books. She's just kind of living her life. Her mother recently passed away, and her agent basically calls her up and tells her that they have an offer on the table for a writing gig for her. And so she meets this man named Jeremy, who is speaking on behalf of his wife, who is Verity Crawford, who is a very famous thriller author. And basically Verity was in a really horrible car accident, and because of this car accident, Verity is unable to finish this series of thrillers that she has been coming out with. And so Lowen is asked to essentially finish that series for Verity. So she ends up actually kind of moving in to Jeremy and Verity's house. They also have a young boy named Crew. So this is one of those thrillers that really messed with my mind and made me think, and I loved every minute of it. I think Colleen Hoover did a wonderful job of just building the suspense for the reader and just creating this creepy atmosphere. I mean, excuse my French, but this book was all kinds of fucked up, and I was just so here for it. I think that Colleen Hoover should definitely write more mystery thrillers because I definitely think that she has a gift for them. There is, however, one content warning that I want to discuss for a little bit that I haven't heard anyone else bring up, and I can totally understand why, because, you know, you don't want to spoil any part of this for anyone because it is a thriller, and the best way to experience this kind of book is to go in blind. But I would say if you are someone who has suffered a miscarriage, or you have had any difficulty having children, or you have gone through an abortion yourself, or anything along those lines, I would avoid this book, because even someone like me reading this who has absolutely no desire to have children, to be completely honest, I was feeling kind of sick to my stomach reading some of the things that happen in this book. So I would be aware of that before going into this. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. I can totally see why some people didn't really enjoy like the plot twist in this, but for me personally it worked really well, and there is kind of an open-ended aspect to this book as well. And yeah, I just couldn't give it less than 5 stars. The next book I want to discuss is Supernova by Marissa Meyer. This is the third and final book in the Renegades trilogy. This was also a book that I talked a lot about in my Christmas reading vlog, so definitely go check out that video. But I had to give this 5 stars. For me, this is the best book of the series. I know that a lot of people feel differently, but for me, this just ended the series in a really insane and crazy and amazing and phenomenal way. After reading this, I was just so heartbroken, so happy, so shook to the core, as you guys saw in that vlog. Like, I literally couldn't really express my thoughts because I was just so taken aback by this book, especially the last few pages of the epilogue really just blew me away. My only minor gripe with this is that I think that we could have used a bit more resolution with our main characters. I feel like that was skimmed over a bit at the end. I just think that Marissa Meyer could have put more into resolving all of the different storylines that we have going on in this book. But other than that, I thought that this installment was pretty much perfect. And the last book I had to talk about in this video is Thunderhead by Neal Shusterman. I actually finished this just last night. I'm filming this on January 1st, so I definitely finished out my 2019 reading year with a bang because this book was just insane. I feel like that is a theme with this wrap-up. I read a lot of insane books this month, but this is book 2 in the Arc of a Scythe series. Mainly the reason why I couldn't give this less than 5 stars was because I am just in awe of how well Neal Shusterman continues to build this world that he has created. I thought in Scythe he did a really great job with the world building aspect, but in this installment I thought it was just stepped up even more. I really loved the direction that this series was taking overall, and I loved that the Thunderhead, which is the AI that essentially controls this whole world, became such a really important part of the story. And yeah, the ending of this one was absolutely nuts, and I'm very interested to see how everything is going to play out in the final book, which is The Toll, because with this ending I just have no idea. Okay guys, that's going to be it for my end of December wrap up. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that you would consider pressing that like button and subscribing, and I thank you in advance if you do. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!